Not good at all. What was that beeping? Truffle Shuffle Boy wants to know. Well, that is our timer. Because, yes, there's this really long video out there of this live stream, but we also like to cut it down into 10-minute little chunks for easier consumption. So that's what we do. We hit a start and stop on a record, which that's what the beeping was. And if you're watching this after the fact separately, then yeah, that's how we make them chopped up like that. We do that because if you watch the 10-minute chunks, the quality is actually even better than what you're watching right now. So this way we can get a full HD version of our live streams, as well as the long version that you guys are watching now, and that'll also be available online with all your comments and stuff. So DJ Nerf Fanatic says Final Fantasy or Kingdom Hearts?
Final Fantasy.
Well, yeah, Final Fantasy. I mean, Kingdom Hearts is just Final Fantasy with Disney, and I love Disney, but it's way too watered down Final Fantasy. And I've never really got too into the story of Kingdom Hearts.
It's not bad.
Keyblade, it's not bad at all, but the whole Keyblade thing and the Mickey and then they started going into the past and prequel things. It got a little messy for me. Final Fantasy, like, it's very rare that you would have even a world come back for a second game, let alone continuing story. So I do like how you pick up a Final Fantasy game, almost any one.
Brand new, right?
And it's brand new. You kind of get it right from the start. With the obvious exceptions of, like, X2, or 10.2, pardon me, and then 13.2, which is coming out. As well as stuff like Final Fantasy 12, which takes place in the same world as Final Fantasy Tactics.
Right.
Which was cool. It was nice to sometimes get back into that. Family Guy or American Dad? That one's really easy. American Dad all the way. That game or show rocks. I don't know if you've ever seen my favorite episode, but it's called something about Rapture. But it's basically the Rapture happens, and it turns the whole world into like an 80s post-apocalyptic demon action movie. It's phenomenal. It's like maybe the best 30 minutes I've seen on TV in animated form. Very good. Christian FTWLOL asked actually a hot point question. Does sex in games ruin the experience? It's a sticky subject, and some people, Avik immediately says no, because, you know, he's like that. But it's a valid concern, because people say that video games don't necessarily need that, and it's more of a children's medium. And it certainly was at a time, but much like comic books, how they became much more adult in the late 70s and 80s, video games are becoming that too. And they're really understanding that it's all about appealing to what audience is you're interested in. And when you limit the audience to just children, like people try to do with video games, you really, limit what you can do with the medium as a whole. Like, no, children are not supposed to be playing Mortal Kombat. People are not supposed to be playing God of War or even Grand Theft Auto, which is where some of the sex and game stuff comes from. They're not. They're M-rated games. You're not supposed to play them. If you're at Best Buy and they sell it to you, well, that's just as wrong as if you're at Best Buy and they sell a kid's showgirls. No one says differently, but this fact that people can't disassociate comic books and video games from children really is a problem. And I think as old people are no longer an issue and the young people become the old people, I think we're going to start seeing that being less and less of a thing. Yeah. How can games be kid-oriented with M ratings? They can't, and that's the point, is people need to understand that if things are coming out with M ratings, they're not kid-oriented. And that there are video games and experiences, and the predominant sort of demographic for video games now is kids between the ages of like 15 and 25. Right. It's not, little kids anymore. It used to be, it certainly did. Like when the original Nintendo came out and Sonic, like those old mascots were totally G-rated. And now the mascots are Master Chief.
Family friendly, if you want to say.
Yeah, family friendly is a better way to put it, because G kind of has a watered down connotation.
Right.
But video games as a whole are becoming so much more. And once people can understand that, and there was the big success, the ruling was that it was unconstitutional to put people in jail for selling M-rated games, because it's no different than R-rated movies. And you can't, start regulating stuff like that, because you're just going to
By the way,
stifle the medium.
Want to check out a cool Riddler puzzle?
Yeah,
So
show me the cool little
so
stuff.
the way Riddler puzzles work. See, okay, you normally wouldn't see that. But
Yeah.
You see that question mark?
No?
You see that period that's on the bottom over
Oh,
there?
you gotta
so you have
line it
to
up?
align them. And once you align them, you scan it. But it says solution not aligned.
Align it better. Maybe it's
There you go.
nice.
So there's a lot of those, and there's one like literally part on top of like the highest point in the game,
Uh-huh.
and it's like this giant question mark, and you're like, what? And then you
Oh,
have to
that's
find the dot,
crazy.
and it's so awesome.
Yeah, so there was a follow-up question. Is the desensitization of violence a bad thing? And that's a very interesting, good point, because technically, I mean, yes, the answer is you don't want to desensitize anyone to bad, horrible things, because desensitizing something is, for the most part, not good. But, what is desensitizing, though? Just because someone plays Mortal Kombat doesn't mean they can't understand and feel real violence, because it's not real violence, it's cartoon violence. So yeah, the desensitizing of violence is a bad thing, but people need to understand that the more prevalent it is in the society, there's just going to be different standards. Where kids might seem desensitized, but if they were to ever come into contact with like a real dead body, for instance, I think it would be just as powerful, and you just don't want to ever have them try that out. Okay, so let's get on to some fun topics. That was kind of a down, dreary one. What was my favorite Nick cartoon? Oh, that's interesting. I was actually watching. That's cool.
Love the moves; they get stronger and stronger.
Nick
cartoon.
I was actually watching one of my favorite ones last night.
Which was?
Rocco's Modern Life.
Rocco's Modern Life.
Yes, and his little dog Spunky.
I used to draw Rocco.
Oh, Rocco's
That's funny.
fantastic. I also have been really excited about Doug lately. I've been watching some old Doug. Because recently on the channel Teen Nick, they started this new midnight block called The 90s Are Alright that has Clarissa Explains It All that.
That's
Doug,
so awesome.
all of them. And then they'll eventually get into some really great sort of stuff with Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Are you afraid of the dark? I was going to mention that.
Oh yeah, Hey Dude, Salute Your Shorts, all those great. Legends of the Hidden Temple. D9999999 asks, who is my favorite Batman villain? Two-Face, bar none. There's so much complexity to him, and there's a lot of complexity to the Joker that people will say, and that's true. But nothing compared to what's going on with Two-Face. Not just what's going on in his mind, but what's going on in Batman's mind when he fights him, because this is one of his old friends. When the character's done right, he is one of Batman's dearest and oldest friends, who both of them together in a different scenario, in a different world, probably would have been crusading on a corporate level to clean up like corporate issues, but instead there's a lot of negativity and horror and tragedy, and he becomes a supervillain and Batman becomes a superhero. It's crazy. Invader Hector has kept asking me if I remember him. I am not ignoring you, but every time your question pops up, I'm in the middle of some pontification on another subject. I don't remember. Should I remember you? I probably do. I'm just bad with names, particularly screen names. I remember you now because I had to say that I didn't, and I felt bad about that. But now I will remember you forever and for always. But at least I'm not a liar. I could have just said yeah. I mean, there's really no negative to just saying that. Have I ever played X-Men Origins Wolverine? That game is phenomenal. That game is a lot of fun. That is the best Wolverine game I think they could ever even make. I don't think you can make a better game.
I actually think it's the best X-Men game. But then again, it doesn't heavily involve X-Men, so I'll take it.
Well, it's called X-Men. There are games that heavily involve the X-Men that don't even have X-Men in the title, like, say, Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it definitely counts. I actually recently did a video of the top 5 X-Men games of all time when First Class came out, and I had that at number 3. Number 1 was X-Men Legends 2. I think that game is phenomenal. But Wolverine is a great game, too. Absolutely love it.
Such great action, too.